What's going on, guys? Dan Watson, LearningCameras.com, and here I've got the brand new Sony a6500. Now, I originally did a review on the a6300. You might want to check that out because not a whole lot has changed here. We primarily have about 5 new features coming to this camera, which we'll go over, but definitely take a look at this as well. Now, if you want to take a look at the image files from this review, head to a link down below, and I'll go ahead and post all of the JPEG, full resolution, and RAW files so you can download the images from this review and take a look at those for yourself so that you can see how this camera performs for yourself. And then also, I'm posting a lot of this stuff to our Facebook and Instagram pages as well, so go ahead and follow me there. All that's in the links below, as well as the option to purchase this camera if this looks like the camera for you. So, without further ado, let's take a look at this camera and what it can do. And the 5 new big features for the a6500 include a 5-axis image stabilization system, and we'll go over that a little bit more. We also have a new touchscreen. Now, the touchscreen, unfortunately, is only going to be touch to focus. It really doesn't work in any other aspect of the camera. And we also have a brand new buffer that will shoot up to 100 RAW files at 11 frames per second and process them. And the nice thing, too, is that you can actually see the images as you're taking them, so you can play back before those have finished unloading the buffer and going onto the card. You can actually review your images. Before, in the a6300, I believe it was 20 RAW files that you could get, which at 11 frames per second is less than 2 seconds of shooting. So you went through that pretty quickly on high speed. We also have a revised menu, and this is great because Sony's menu has not been great in the past. Also, we have a little bit of an enhanced grip, gives you a little bit more space, and we also have 2 more buttons up on the top of that. And so, you know, these are some of the new features that we're looking at in the a6500, and how it will perform is a different matter. And so this is where some things are very similar to the a6300, so definitely check that out as well. But here's what we're looking at for the new camera. Now, the camera still has the same 24 megapixel sensor. We're still dealing with some unbelievable image quality, some of the best dynamic range and low light results from any APC camera in its class. Now, with the faster shooting, it just feels a little bit better when you're shooting high-speed sports. In addition, you have the 425-point AF system. It's using phase detection and contrast detection. Really good autofocus system, and it really helps to complete this camera. Now, a lot of the time I'm shooting with the touchscreen, so having a touch to focus is also very, very nice. So it really is starting to feel like an improved camera and a good still shooter for something that is a little higher in the entry range. And then also now with our 5-axis image stabilization system, you're getting about 5 stops, they claim. Wouldn't quite go that far, but of additional image stabilization with those non-stabilized lenses. So everything is looking a little bit better on this camera for photo shooters. Now, unfortunately, we're still dealing with some of the faults that were present from the a6300. And one of those is that we don't have any kind of front dial on here. So the only dials we have is one on the back and then another scroll wheel. And I hate the tactile feel on this back scroll wheel. It's very easy to accidentally push it and activate one of the buttons instead of scrolling it. So I really just don't feel like the ergonomics are up to standard. Also, the battery life is still very weak, just not the best on there. And if you're using a Touch AF system on this camera, it's just not quite as responsive as what we would get on most Nikon or Canon cameras. Now, the other big thing is, while Sony has definitely beefed up their lens line for their mirrorless cameras, primarily these E-mount lenses, we still really do not have anything in terms of f2.8 zooms. The only options are going to be over $2,000 and going to be the new G Master lenses. And those are full frame lenses. They're extremely large, very, very heavy. They just don't really fit well with this camera. However, and that's really your only option for f2.8 zoom. So you're looking at f4 zooms like this one right here. This is their 16 to 70 millimeter Zeiss f4. It's a great lens. It has stabilization built into it as well. you're looking at almost $1,000 for something like this, and it's still an f4 lens. Whereas on Canon and Nikon, for $1,000, you're picking up f2.8 zoom. So that is something that's a bit of a negative to me. Not only do I love that wide aperture for shooting most of my portraits, but also having that to be able to lower your ISO kind of defeats the advantage that Sony has for the low light performance. So that's just something that I think could be improved. I really hope that this year we see some new APS-C zooms. Now on the video side, this is so close to being an amazing camera. You have 4K recording, 30 frames per second, 1080p up to 120 frames per second. You basically have all the top-end features that you would want for video, whether it's the new 5-axis image stabilization, which pretty much allows you to handhold this thing and shoot with some pretty long lenses, to having log recording, your gamma options, focus peaking. It really is no shortage of options on here. And now we have our touch to focus. Now, unfortunately, the touch to focus on the movie side is not as good as I would have expected. We do have it. Unfortunately, we're still dealing with that same lag. And then the biggest missing feature is that when you do that, you lose your option to lock on AF expand. And what that setting is for the AF system is it allows you to lock on a subject and have that subject be followed around the entire frame. So basically you can tap on someone's face or tap on an object, and no matter where you move the camera, it's always going to maintain focus on that camera or on that object. And that is missing from the video mode. So the only thing we have actually is continuous autofocus. You don't have a single point. And so when you're in continuous mode and you tap on an item, it's now locked in that position. You don't get any confirmation that it's actually focused on there. So your result is only by looking at the screen, and that's another weakness for this camera, is going to be the screen. So really for focus options in video, it's a little bit more limiting than for photo options. Also, like I said, that screen, if you're in movie mode, that screen brightness goes down a lot. And so with that, it's very, very difficult to see this screen in bright shooting. And so it just becomes very difficult to be able to maintain your focus, even if you're using the autofocus system. If you're relying on it to detect your objects in most cases, or you're trying to touch and focus, but it's very difficult to see what you're focusing on and if that subject is in focus. So it's not a perfect system, even with such a great autofocus system and technically the features you would need. In practice, it just doesn't work as well. Now, battery life is still a big issue for video. It's an hour recording really max on this thing, and you're ending up changing out the batteries. The good thing is you can charge this thing over USB, but really it's just something that needs to be a lot better and comparable to other cameras out there. 1 hour recording is all that you have on this one. And then we still have the issue with overheating. It's hard to know exactly how this is going to affect you. It's freezing cold right now. For me, at least in Florida, it's about 30 degrees. And so it does not overheat in these kind of scenarios, but get this thing in direct sunlight. That seems to be the big kicker for me. Even if it's 70 degrees outside, but it's in direct sunlight, this thing will overheat. Now on the A6300, I was really lucky to get about 20 to 25 minutes. I would say this, I can typically get a little bit longer. And then the big thing on this one is we do have a button now to override the overheating, basically to let the camera heat up a little bit more than normal and still be able to take video. So it will not stop recording even though it gets extremely hot. And that allows you to go a little bit longer. I don't know what kind of damage, lasting effects that's going to have on the sensor. You might see a little increased noise from all that heat going through the system, but it will allow you to do that. So for all those times that you need to get this, I shoot a lot of weddings. Really, the only way around that right now is to shoot 1080p or to enable that longer recording, and then you should be able to pull off at least a 30 and 40 minute shoot. The camera could get extremely hot, but at least it won't overheat on you, and it seems to be a better option than the A6300, but still far from perfect and definitely not reliable. Now the buttons and ergonomics of this thing for video are still lacking. I do wish the touchscreen had some more options. If you're on a tripod with this thing, just like the A6300, if you're on a tripod, you can't even get this thing to face it down. It really doesn't give you any option except going straight up. And that's about all you're going to get on it. And it's because that tripod plate normally interferes with this, and it's just impossible to get that out. I wish we had a better screen system for articulation, ideally something that allowed front viewing as well for situations like this where I'm recording myself. It's always nice to have. And I do wish we had separate buttons so that I could program them to have one custom function in photo and one custom function in video, because some of them, like silent mode, I don't need for video, yet it's taking up a button on my camera because I have it enabled for photo mode. So little things like that could be better. The other thing on the video shooting side is I really hoped with that faster processing, we would now be seeing better rolling shutter. But unfortunately, it's the same. It's still horrible. It's one of the worst cameras out there. You have to be very, very careful. Thankfully, with the new stabilization system, if you're hand holding this, you will not notice it as much as you did on the old one, because now everything is just a little more stable. But if you're moving this camera along, you will see it. So that's something that's a bit of a negative. Now, kind of going back to the photo side of things, one thing that Sony does that's a little bit weird is that everything, a lot of the features are programmed into apps. So if you want to do time lapses, if you want to do remote shooting stuff, that is enabled through apps. You have to get a Sony account, log into the account. Some of them cost some money, like if you're out in the field and you have an issue, you can't deal with it. So there's just some limitations there that I think Sony should stop doing on that one, and we should have a better system. So overall, even with the few shortcomings of the a6500, it really is still one of my favorite cameras on the market. You just simply can't beat that kind of quality for this kind of price, and the amount of features that you get in this, and really the no compromise camera as far as features are concerned and quality is concerned that Sony is producing is really unbeatable from anything else on the market. And so from that standpoint, I am a huge fan of this camera. There are those limitations, so just keep those in mind, and if none of those are a big deal for you, I highly recommend this camera for you. Now, what are your other options? The a6300 is still a great option and might even be a little bit better option for most of you there. I would say if you're not shooting with a bunch of prime lenses that don't have stabilization built in already, then you might want to upgrade to this camera. So if you have like the 18 to 35 millimeter from Sigma f1.8, this might be a good reason to upgrade, because you're going to get stabilization on that lens for only a couple $100 more than the a6300. However, many of Sony's lenses, both zoom lenses and other primes, are stabilized. So if many of the lenses are you shooting there, that's really the main feature that I would say this will pay off for. Now, the buffer is definitely improved, and you can notice it when you're shooting. It just feels faster. However, 2 seconds of 11 frames per second is really enough for most of us to get by, so I don't see that being as compelling of a reason. You can either go with your more traditional type DSLRs, where there's some great quality cameras, but they're not as small like this, and they lack some of those cool features like a Nikon D5500 and Canon, even the Canon 80D. It just lacks some of the professional level features you would find on upper end cameras that Canon and Nikon are still holding back from releasing on these kind of cameras. Now, if you go with the mirrorless side, you do have the Fuji X-T2, which is every bit as good as this in terms of quality. Is a really cool camera. I like it a lot. You are missing the 5-axis stabilization, but it's overall a great camera. And they do have f2.8 zoom options, so I do think that's a great, compelling option for you there. And as well, on the lower side of things, we have the Panasonic G85, which does have that 5-axis stabilization, but it is a smaller sensor. So definitely check out the reviews from both of those so you can kind of compare them. But those are really the two compelling options for the mirrorless side of things, other than Sony on this one. But Sony gives you the quality that the Panasonic G85 does not get. And as long as you can deal with these small issues, I really think this is going to be the way to go for many of you. Or the a6300 is still one of the top choices for high quality cameras in this space. So hopefully you like that. Check out those reviews as well. A lot more coming up. Subscribe, and I'll see you soon.